It's nice to see everyone on the screen again, and that you all have taken this time to reset to yourself, though the sharing is short. So it also shows that you all do know what meditation is about, and that's why you all do show up as well. We have done a lot of things this year, spiritually and worldly-wise as well, been through a lot of different things. And we should know by now, meditation is a time to reset into yourself. Even if you're extremely tired, it's a good time to just come back to yourself. It is important. You may be very busy. You may be busy chasing after things. You have tasks to complete. But how much time are we actually taking for ourselves? That is the question that we should be asking. Are we fulfilling the desires of others? Are we fulfilling the expectations of others? Work is important, but is work really something that aligns with you, your spiritual self? That is the question to ask. Some of you may be performing tasks or be in certain careers that are not nourishing towards your spiritual self, but it is towards your own personal growth. And you just have to keep that in mind. Now, what are you really doing when you're working? It doesn't have to be spiritually right, but it must be fair towards yourself. Because if it is not nourishing your spiritual well-being, and if it is not helping you with your personal growth, then you're just working on the dreams of someone else, as it's very important for you to align your perspective. As practitioners, or as human beings, in fact, how much time are we giving ourselves to enjoy simple things like having a meal, brushing your teeth, doing nothing? And even personal goals sometimes can seem like a strife. Spiritual goals as well. You want the first jhana, the second jhana, you want to see more colors, you want more psychic experience, you want to sense more energy, you want to have more moments of calm, you want to have more mindfulness. Now, all these desires just drives us crazy to get us into moving again, into motion again, or to meditate so that I can clear my mind, so that I can think clearly after that, you see? Sometimes when desire kicks in, it's all future-oriented. What is really about the present moment? Meditation is supposed to set us free, to liberate us from all these projects that we have, all these expectations, all these ideas of ourselves, ideas of how things should be. But if you don't take enough time, if we don't allow ourselves enough time to enjoy the things that we ought to be enjoying, then what are we really doing in this lifetime? It's something to think about. Sometimes we may think, okay, never mind tomorrow, or tomorrow then I start practicing, or next week, or then I start working on this and that. It is nice, right? Sometimes you can take a break from doing certain things. But what makes you think that you can survive tonight? What makes you think that you might not die tonight? Because people who died today, tens of thousands of people died today. This is just how life is. When there's birth, there is death. And people who died, how many of them actually knew they were going to breathe their last today? Can we guarantee that we will continue living? So it's not to say that you need to force yourself to meditate, or to force yourself to a certain kind of reflections, or to force yourself to practice. What you actually need to do is to just give yourself some space and time to be with yourself, to be very honest and sincere towards yourself, to set everything aside. Things that you want to achieve, ideas of who you want to become, ideas of your expectations of others, things you want to get rid of. Is to really just chuck all of this aside and know that you are just important being here. Because of our desires, our resistance towards things, because of ignorance, we have gone through this cyclic existence, coming back to this world, having people that we love, having achievements that meant something to us, just to be departed from them. And then we come back, we just keep coming back, having new attachments, forming new enemies, stressing about certain things. Oh, I don't like how that person walks. I don't like how that person behaves. Stuff like this. The next life, that person ends up being your husband or something, then you go, oh my God, I don't like this life. Then I hate my husband. Then next life, that guy became your boss and gives you a very hard time. Forming all these kind of weird attachments, that's what we do, and that's why we're still here. And in what the Buddha called samsara, this endless cycle. We just warp around by our greed, our hatred, our delusions. Hatred can be expanded into aversion, the things that we don't like, things that we want to be away from. The sense of resistance, the irksome feeling, the I don't want to look at this, I don't want to look at that, I don't want to deal with this, I want this to disappear. If I can't make it disappear, I just treat it as it doesn't exist, I'll deal with it tomorrow. But yet I still want to run away from myself. And tomorrow when it comes, oh shit, why is this crap still here? Why can't I just will it to disappear? The truth is, why don't we just will ourselves to disappear? And it solves all the problems. Because who created all these problems in the first place? Our minds created. You grasp on the things that mean so dear to you, hoping that they don't change. And again, you grasp on the things that don't mean that much things to you, hoping that they will change. Who created all this? To remove the equation, there is and how do you remove this thing, right? There is this comic strip of this man going up to the Buddha and said, Buddha, I want happiness. And then the Buddha looked at him and said, remove want, that is desire. Then next, remove the I, that is the ego. And then you're left with happiness. In spiritual practice, when we get on the mat or the chair and have a formal meditation session, what are we really doing? We're only doing two things. One is to just be completely genuine towards yourself, towards what is apparent within you, how your body is like, what kind of feelings and emotional energies you have, what kind of thought patterns are there. So just be aware of them. That's number one. And the second thing is to understand and let go. You let go through your understanding after you have penetrated into yourself. Not just because DK asks you to let go of things and then you go and let go of things. So genuine attention. You connect with your breath. You connect with the light. You do your preliminaries. It could be 9 purification breaths. It could be some chanting. It could be some kriyas that you perform. And then you settle your mind into a calm state. And let's say you practice loving kindness meditation and you realize that there's just this one particular person that when you visualize that person, the light disappears. No light wants to go to that person, or in part of you just feel that this person is hopeless. My light can't reach this person. And then we say, okay, we skip this person. I can't reach this person well. I don't feel anything towards this person at all. I don't feel anger. I don't feel love. I don't feel care. I just feel aloof to this person. So I think I'm pure. I'm peaceful. I'm equanimous about it. And then you pick a loved one, suddenly you could feel so much towards that person. So what happens, when you meditate and you touch onto something that seems blank? Perhaps sending loving kindness or paying attention to a part of your life that you have resistance to, that you don't want to look at. That is how you shine metta. So when I talk about genuine attention, is to shine light onto what is the most apparent thing in your present moment, in the here and now. If you can't shine light onto a certain situation that you don't know how to deal with, or a certain person, your metta just can't flow. Then what is apparent is that darkness. No, there is that resistance. You may not identify with that resistance as you resisting the idea of shining light to a certain scenario. But it is just resistance itself, resisting to shine, to shed any form of light. So what you do in that moment is to embrace the darkness. Make that your meditation object. Just realize that that resistance is there. Accept it. You don't need to push it away. You accept it. And when you accept it long enough, something special might happen. Your mind is just shift all of a sudden. And it realizes the light and the power that you have been cultivating towards. That magnanimous, to be magnanimous is not to go out and save the world. It's not to have big arms and big heart, but it is to be big enough to embrace a very big mental formation that is arising within you. So your mindfulness will grow into a non-dual awareness simply by recognizing what is apparent within you. It could be boredom, it could be downness, it could be resistance, but just embrace it. Just look at it. Just know that it's there, and you don't need to change anything about it. And then gradually, your own kind of light and mindfulness appears. And you realize that you're different now. You're different from the past. That you're more capable now. You're more resilient. You have more understanding. And from that understanding, and you penetrate deeper, perhaps to something like resistance, you may find out that it could be just fear that is causing the resistance. The fear that was formed from the perceptions and experience of the past. That if you were to engage in this situation, either you get hurt or you lose yourself in it. You know, that fear creates that resistance. And because that fear, what is fear? Fear is doubt. It is unsure. That's why we have fear, because we're unsure about things. But if we can embrace and penetrate resistance and see fear as it is, you know you are that light of mindfulness. You are different now. And there's no need for that fear. You can trust yourself. No one's getting hurt here. And resistance can go away. You stop running away from yourself. You start to come into a realization of yourself. And that's why I said it's about being genuine. That's the first step. A genuine, sincere attention. And the second thing is to let go with understanding. And that's where you can gain your peace. And you re-establish that peace, that calm, which all of you have experienced before. The sense of release, that bliss, that peace. And the mind will just stop wandering because you have taken charge of it. Because you did not do anything to control your thoughts. All you did was to control yourself, to have self-control, to make sure you don't run away, to make sure you face head-on what's within, what's coming up. That becomes the journey. This is the spiritual, the inner journey that we're all taking deep within ourselves, deep into our consciousness. This is the culmination of samatha and vipassana. Then when it's time to bliss out, you bliss out. When it's time to look into what's coming up, you look into it, you understand it. Then it begins to disappear. Meditating on your very own nature, your very own existence, seated right here and right now. Having gone through aeons and aeons of rebirths. Some you can remember, some you can't recall. We are still here because of the lack of understanding, because of our ignorance, because of us being distracted by everything in the phenomenal world. But now we have this precious chance to learn the Dharma, to apply the Dharma, to dwell in the Dharma. And if your hands can still move, you can practice the 9 purification breaths. If you're unsure what the 9 purification breaths are, then just block your left nostril, breathe in through your right, and breathe out from your left. Breathe in through your left, and then breathe out from your right, and then breathe in from your right, and then breathe out from your left. And then breathe in through both nostrils, and then breathe through both nostrils. That's 1 set. Do 3 sets. Breathing in fresh, pure energy. Breathing out all greed, aversion, and delusions. Out with the old, in with the new. Each breath brings you back to the safe island of mindfulness within you. Notice the space and silence between every thought and every emotion. Through countless rebirths since beginningless time, we have formed attachments, dissolved attachments. You have been led by the mind instead of mastering the mind. That's why sometimes you suffer. Just sit with this sincere and genuine attention towards yourself. Inviting a sense of Namo Sigato into your practice. Just ask yourself this question: how can I remain still with the clearest mind? How can I make this moment work for me? Shine your light of awareness into the most significant and the most obvious phenomena. without the idea of creating any new experiences or to drive away experiences that you do not like, or simply penetrating into what is most apparent right here and right now. Notice when the seeds of desires arise to try to push things away, or to try to create anything new. And also notice the moments when those seeds do not exist at all. How do those change your energy? It is not about getting rid of desires. It is about a true sense of being. It is about befriending all mental phenomena by accepting them as they are, and to look at them with the eyes of sincerity, to penetrate, to understand. Knowing that you are established in this pure knowing. In this state of pure knowing, you know what to do, whether to shift into the dimension of samatha, of tranquility, or to shift into the domain of vipassana, of penetrating into the insights. It is not about intellectualizing. It is about knowing and intuitively knowing what to do, how to be, how to understand, how to renounce, how to establish peace and awakening. If the mind is stable and balanced, immerse into that balance. If the mind is flicking with thoughts and distractions, notice the distractions. Don't try to change anything at all. Simply be still and know. Notice if desires, aversion, or ignorance and delusions are popping up. Any sense of discomfort is a sign that your defilements are trying to kick you and to nudge you out of your center so they can usher in suffering. No one freaks out in meditation. No one gets pissed or upset in meditation. It is the defilements that get worked up. So be still and know. Penetrate, be aware. Open up your mind's eye. Penetrate, understand. Don't try to push anything away, including the defilements or the mental afflictions, for that will only drive them and spur them further. If there are a lot of thoughts, lower your chin. If there is drowsiness or sleepiness, raise your chin. Maybe you want to do good for the world. You want to change the world. You want to impact society. Maybe you want to impact your world, which consists of the people whom you care about. You want to effect positive transformation and change, whether it's your world or the world outside. It is just the world. But only one who has conquered him or herself by understanding and mastering the mind can be able to deal with any real changes in the world. How can a thought leader or change maker do anything beneficial without a stable mind? It all starts with yourself. How many years, how many lifetimes have you been swarmed by your mind? Like a wild horse, galloping and galloping and galloping, tossing you around. Mastering the mind is like reining the wild horse. To gain mastery over it, and you can't force a horse to be tamed. To tame the horse, you first have to understand the horse. Only can you learn how to ride the horse and to travel on it, to wheel it to your commands. So this is meditation. The mind is like a horse. It is alive. It will always move. How can you mount the horse? Wishing for the mind to be empty is like hoping the horse will be retired. So be in this pure knowing and contemplate your mind. Understand its nature. Everything comes and goes. Mental states come and go. Mental states are impermanent. They are empty of any intrinsic, lasting existence. Attachment to them or identification with them will cause suffering. Non-grasping is what brings peace. Grasping onto mental states is like pulling on the horse tail. Suppressing mental states is like strangling the horse. And trying to remove mental states is like killing the horse. All things are impermanent. And if you can understand this, you will naturally let go and be back in pure knowing that nothing whatsoever can be grasped onto. You can let them come and go as they like. There is nothing wrong with defilements. Grasping, attachment, that is the problem. When you can let go, the defilements will not have a hold on you. If you can release the idea of what you want to become, who you want to become. All ideas and perceptions, they are impermanent. They don't last. They are subject to falling away. Letting go of the idea of being a good partner, a good worker, good child, a good future parent, a good friend. The idea of being ignorant, the idea of gaining enlightenment, the idea of being a spiritualist. They are all led by desires. And if we can let go of them and accept this moment as it is, without any clinging, then who is meditating? Who is this meditator that doesn't need any enlightenment or any experience, that is unbothered by any mental states? Without any strings of attachment, how can you identify this pure knowing? It is just this clear light of awareness, this emptiness. It is like the nadi sound, the ringing sound, the sound of silence. Or it is simply the sound of an om without the ah and the for it is beginningless and endless. A hollow rumble. Clear light, sound of silence, emptiness. letting go of the idea of letting go. Setting aside all likes and dislikes. To have this pure understanding and knowledge, to know how to conduct oneself without the afflictions of the defilements and desires. One can truly know oneself and the world, the six worlds, the seeing world, hearing world, smelling world, tasting world, touching world, and thinking world. To fully penetrate and to understand, to set aside all likes and dislikes, to be in equanimity, and to be illuminated by the clear light, this pure knowing. That is the attainment of the Buddha. The chant of the Buddha-nusati, the Itipiso chant. This is the divine consciousness where all guides can appear, where they can reveal to you their enlightened presence. It's where higher consciousness can be accessed with all the knowledges. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Itipiso vit se Buddha nami it imina. Buddha dang so it so tang Buddha piti itipiso vit se Buddha nami it imina. Buddha dang so it so tang Buddha piti Itipiso vit se Buddha nami it imina. Buddha tang so it so tang Buddha piti iti paramita tingsa iti sapanyum kata iti poti manut tamo iti piso chatte namo asang visulo pusa pupa. Tipiso bhagavang arahang samma sambuddho vinca jarana sambanno sugato lunga vidung anundaro Purisa Dhamma Sarati Santa Deva Manuzanang Buddha Bhagavadi Savankantu Bhagavata Dhammo Sanditiko Galiko Ehipasiko Ovanaiko Bachadang Veditabo Vinyung Hiti Supati Panno Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Ujjapati Panno Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Yayapati Panno Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sami Jipati Panno Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Yatidang Chandari Purisa Yukaninga Tapurisa Bungalang Esa Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Ahunayo Bhagunayo Dakinayo Anjali Garaniyo Anundano Punya Gedang Lokasadhi. Tadyatha Muni Muni Mahamunaya Soha. May this non-doer awareness also reveal not just your practice, not just your original nature, but also the three bodies of all enlightened beings. There is no separation between the acknowledgement, the acknowledger, and the acknowledged. The knower, the known, and the knowing, all part of the same thing. Thus, there is no separation between samsara and nirvana. This is why there is the fearless bodhisattva, the koan in the Heart Sutra, who sits in the relaxed posture, but with one leg stepping out to be engaged in samsara, to be engaged in the world, while being reminded that she dwells in nirvana. Namo Sigato. You can begin to exit your meditation. the form changes, but the essence remains. The concentration can remain. Going into Dhamma sharing on reflections of tonight's session. There's two ways you can bow in and share. The first way is to reflect on the teachings, the recollections, the reflections, or the insights, and see this as a continuation of the meditation while you share. And the other way to share is that you're still in a very meditative state. So your sharing will be simply you narrating what your mind is processing right now. That's how we continue. So the circle is open.
I'll go first. So I found today's meditation very interesting, and I feel like it's not a meditation that I've done before, because I think in today's meditation, what DK did was to tell us the how, so the technique, but then the what was really left to ourselves. So to just use the knowing and the intuition to get to the realization or the insight. So I thought that that was quite different, and also I think something that I enjoy a lot, because you feel like it really, whatever you learn really come from within. You know what DK was just trying to do was just to like tell you how to do it. So like right now, like my mind feels very, very clear and empty, which is a nice feeling. At some point, there was some like negative emotions that did come up, as predicted by DK, like some irritation and some sadness. But then, as according to the instruction, you just like shine a light on it, and then after a while it became clear what I had to do. So all in all, I really like this session. So thank you, DK, and thank you, everyone.
Hi everyone, I'll go next. I thought this session was going to be a calm one because it started out calm. I was very anchored in my breathing and focusing on it. But after a few moments, the thoughts came up. So meditation kind of turned into a questioning one. So it started from me becoming aware of certain habitual patterns in real life. And it then moved to them stemming from certain thought patterns that I have. So I was questioning my thought patterns and was kind of going around in circles, or rather, it was more like my mind was just throwing out like dualistic answers, like it's either this or that. And then I realized, okay, well, that can't be it. So I just, no, I think it was DK. You said suddenly like, okay, let go of being, let go of what is a good spiritual practice, a good partner, a good child. And then when you said good child, then I realized, oh, that's the reason for my thought patterns, because it all stems from that, being a good child. And then I wanted to question further, but then my mind kind of got distracted, like suddenly through a whole bunch of distractions. So I wasn't successful in that. So I just decided to go back to my breathing. And so that was, I think, the last quarter of the meditation where I just was focused on my breathing again. And yeah, I guess my question is like, to myself, is like, what is skillful questioning? Because I don't know whether I did it correctly. Or maybe there's no need to come to a certain conclusion right away. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Regina. I will touch on that now. So one thing about spiraling into thoughts, right? Thought patterns. So when you discover yourself going into thought patterns of trying to figure something out, also notice that is it being carried by desire? Desire to need to know something, right? Because there's a fine line between being contemplative and reflective versus desiring to know, desiring to seek for an answer. Is there a willingness to want to? Is it coming from a position of I want to understand, or I need to know? You see, so that's it. So if you can't figure out, sometimes all you could do is go back to samatha, which is what you did great. Go back to samatha, just breathing. I don't need to answer anything, and just be in a still state of mind. Then after that, you can re-engage. Because when you go back to samatha, you're nourishing yourself with mindfulness power and concentration power to re-engage. But then again, sometimes you don't even have to re-engage. The moment you step back into samatha, there might be a realization that maybe I don't need to figure this out. Because maybe I already know that there's no point chasing after this. There's no need to figure this out because there's no need to be a good child. There's no need for that expectation, and then it might just disappear on its own, because it is about attachment and detachment. That's all. Does that make sense? Yeah. Shiok, I want to ask you, you mentioned sadness and irritation, right? Shiok. So irritation, so what do you notice the difference? Times when there's irritation and sadness, and perhaps you take on a certain stance to manage or to deal with them, versus a different relationship which we explored today on shining light into them. What's the difference? What do you get out of that difference?
I think the main difference for me was when the feeling arose, I just accepted it. So like recognize and then accept. And then from then on, it's easier to shine the light. or like the after you shine the light is clearer on how to what needs to be done, or like how to deal with what is causing the emotion. So that's the difference for me.
So compared to the past, what was it like? What do you actually do?
So in the past, sometimes I just like either you're talking about during meditation, right? If it arises, or just like generally.
It could be both, because
Uh,
you were when you were showing you're definitely comparing it to the past. So whatever that past
yeah.
was.
So it can be, so usually like sometimes I just like pretend it doesn't exist, like just say, oh yeah, it's fleeting, or it's not useful, and then just like shove it away. So yeah, that's generally how I would have dealt with it. So I skip the acceptance part.
Got it. Very good. So that is the amygdala reacting to it, right? In the past, when you have a certain kind of emotion or situation comes up, it's either a fight or a flight, right? The fight flight response. So neglecting it, trying to ignore it, it could be a flight as well, right? Because like it's shared very beautifully, which is what it was lacking was the acceptance parts, the willingness to just accept it, to understand it, and eventually it will just soften, and you have that own insight that arose from it, from your own deep knowing of what it is and how the mind can detach from it, right? That's what you meant, right?
Yeah. But then like one step before the ignoring it was last time, I will just like, of course I will react to the irritation. So then that's where like all the anger and like then and it just becomes worse. Right. So then after I managed to like not be so reactive. So but then that meant that I was just pushing it away. So I guess now the additional step is the acceptance.
Very good. Very good. Thanks. Right. So what shock channel is either fighting it, repressing it, or flying away from it, right? Or sometimes another way we try to fight with these things is to try to change them, right? Try to wish them going. I'm not referring to the shock. I'm just saying in general of how we actually deal with situations or things that we do not like. Okay. So back to Dharma sharing. Thank you, Shock. Thank you, Regent.
I think the word I will assign to today's meditation is literal. I think the whole process, I was just listening to your teaching, like literally just listening, and it just calm and just listening and calm. Like I don't think I was contemplating on anything. Like I was just listening and letting my hands move. Like literally, I don't know how to explain it. Just like literal, like nothing. Yeah. I think at one point I caught myself like having the doubt. Like I was like asking myself, like, because in the past I didn't do meditation, I always have some insight. But right now, ever since I let my hands move, especially when I'm moving, usually my mind is very empty. So I always have that doubt, wondering if this is a digression or a distraction. Yeah. But I guess there's, like you always mention, there's no attainment. So yeah, just let it be. Yep. Thank you.
Very good. Form can change, essence can remain. That's it. Part of what you're experiencing in medicine, Buddha, yoga, and nidra, since Zoe you mentioned about this, just letting the Dharma teachings come in, that you are not really contemplating, it also means that subconsciously it is absorbing, it's receiving in its own way, it's processing below. So it doesn't require so much energy as compared to using the conscious mind to contemplate. It's like a gear system, the gear ratios, right? The final output spins the like kind of spins more disruptively but the smallest gear doesn't spin so disruptively in that way. So I'm talking in the sense of the appearance of energy output, if you draw that comparison. So when you're listening to a Dharma talk or teachings and you're not contemplating, but yet you're not rejecting and you're not distracted, there is this fusion of the teachings being planted in your consciousness. Right. So deep down, that something is moving, just that consciously you may not be aware. So that's how it works. Right.
So I started. Actually, I'm going to just narrate the things that I went through. I think right at the beginning, I kind of tuned off, and then I came back around the time when DK said, "You don't get angry in the state of calmness. That's your kleshas coming up," and that was like the trigger to start, or rather to just come back out of it into this bright space of light. And anxiety was invited. So during which there was a lot of feeling and embracing the experience of this nervousness, this I must deal with this, I must transform this, the ego being at play, trying to do something about it, trying to change because it's not nice. So there was a lot of embracing. But then realizing that there is that unconscious desire that in that embracing, this thing will disappear. So this goes one level lower. So during which the clear space of knowing remains, which has been the contemplation for the past couple of weeks. It got stronger the past couple of days. The awareness is like space, and the obscurations are clouds. So when that kicked in, then I realized, why do I need to bother with the clouds? Don't try to fight with them. They are just clouds. So when that happened, I was like, well, non-abiding. That's around the time where DK mentioned the word non-abiding. So I was like, yes, non-abiding. No need to try and fight. Rest in that clear consciousness. Just allow those sensations associated with nervousness to just pass without clinging them, grasping them. At this point, also realizing that there is a certain locality when it comes to these feelings, that there is a here, there is a this, there is a location to it. That didn't go very far. I didn't try to force it either. I just realized that there was a here. And then at the same time, the car horn sounded outside very loudly. And that sound rang the truth of here again, because where is here? This sound cannot travel in a vacuum. But that was towards the end. After that, there was the chanting, and then I came out. Yeah, during that clear space of knowing, there was that contemplation of who is the one that sees that light. But then that also revealed that subtle desire to find out, to know. So again, rested back into non-abiding. Thank you. It's a bit disjointed, but I'm just narrating as I remember it before I forget it myself.
There is quote along the line that non-abiding or non-attainment is the Tao, the Tao, however you pronounce it. But of course, try not to be Angmo, so it's just the Tao, right? So the clear light is what, so every Buddhist school has a different explanation for it. Some schools use, at least Ajahn Sumedho and the abbot of the monastery, they call it the sound of silence. Ajahn Sumedho calls it the nadi sound, the ringing sound. That is beginnerless and endless. And the abbot of the monastery calls it the Om sound. The Om sound just chuck. Oops, I was saying chuck 2 fingers into your ears, and you will hear the Om sound. That doesn't have the O, the R, and the Try it. Got it? Yeah. So, but we'll pass that. We'll skip that. So the clear light. It is in Tibetan. It's called, I don't know the Tibetan word, but Tibetan translation is the clear light. I think maybe you'll be very familiar with that, right? Meditating into the clear light, or the abhasavara chitta. There's an explanation in the Pali text. It means this is what the Buddha said. So I'll just read it out as it is. Luminous, monks, is the mind, and it is freed from incoming defilements. The well-instructed disciple of the noble ones discerns that as it actually is present, which is why I tell you that for the well-instructed disciple of the noble ones, there is the development of the mind. So what he's trying to say here is that we all develop, it is all targeted at freeing one from the defilements as they come. And that's how we develop our minds. This is what bhavana is about, the cultivation of one's mind. That consciousness itself is invisible, infinite, and luminous of its own. This ceasing, whereby the 4 elements of earth, water, fire, and air ceases. All those coarse and subtle, pretty and ugly also cease. Herein, name and form ceases. With consciousness ceasing, and the remainder of the name and form of everything else also ceases. And that's where you arrive on the non-abiding, or what the Zen calls the true mind. What Alwyn described early on when we asked the question of who am I, right? Who is there? And that needing to figure out creates the great doubt in Zen. And upon realizing that it is fruitless to question, because there is no point, there is no attainment, there's nothing to figure out at the end of the day, is where the great doubt ceases. And that is what we call Kensho. Kensho means seeing the self-nature, or seeing the self which is no self nature. In Chinese, 明心见性. And when one gets this experience, it's called Satori. Satori means instant enlightenment. Instant enlightenment doesn't mean that you get enlightened instantly. It means in that instant there is enlightenment. And that instant might just disappear because you're not fully awakened. But it may stay on for a very long time as well. Okay. Moving on to the next person's sharing.
Hi everyone. I would say that this meditation, I think it really made me explore my relationship with silence, or so-called the silence that we experience during meditation. I think firstly is because right when we started, I think I've said this quite a few times, but in my new house, the walls are so thin that I can hear everything outside. And there was a lot of like build up of anger that was going on, because I always tell my sister that I meditate on Wednesday night, so please keep quiet. But you can't control that, you know? So it just really made me remember what another teacher told me, which is the internal versus external. You cannot get rid of the external, which is why you work on the internal. So I kept telling myself to go inward, to kind of tune out the silence. And I think halfway through the midpoint, it seemed like all sound disappeared. So even the sound that DK was narrating, it kind of disappeared as well. So I think halfway through, I totally don't know what DK was saying. And then at the same time, I do know, I'm very aware that whenever he stops talking and then there's just long moments of silence, because I love that silence. And so it just makes me wonder if I'm actually attached to that so-called silence, and why so. And I realized that it's very likely because that's where I can indulge in my thoughts, because I've been avoiding certain thoughts of mine that have been difficult to process. So I would say that it's been kind of like revealing as well, the kind of thoughts that were going through my head when I was so-called indulging in them. And then it made me realize that I think so-called when I say that I enjoy the peace and the silence, it's more of me just trying to indulge myself in thoughts that I avoid during my day most of the time. And after a while, when you notice that the indulging has happened, I stop it and I try to return to the breath. And I think that's just as good as it gets. So that is kind of like a repeating theme in my meditation today. Yeah. Don't know if you can hear my dog whining, but that's just the noise I face every day. So yes, thank you.
So maybe what you're sharing is that you notice yourself, was it actively going into the thoughts, or was it passive?
I mean, I think I thought it was passive because I was trying to enter the silence, but I realized it was active in a way that thoughts that I didn't want to think about came up during the silence, which is why I enjoyed the silence so much, because I actually want to think those thoughts that I was so-called trying to avoid in my day-to-day life.
Oh, you mean so like you're trying to investigate and process those thoughts? Is that what you mean when you say indulge?
Something like that. It's basically thoughts that are not just very superficial thoughts. It's more deeper thoughts, involving quite a lot of issues and stuff like that. Yeah.
Got it. So you went in, came back out, went in, came back out. So in the sense you went in, then you realize that what you deserve is silence. So you came back to the silence first. Is it?
I would say that I think that I enjoy the silence in meditation because of the silence itself. But I realize that silence is a way for me to hit those innermost thoughts.
Got it. Because you're diving through your consciousness and then they start surfacing on their own. And through that mindful awareness, they are displayed on the mental screen for mindfulness to kind of embrace it, to know what they're about. Is that what you mean?
Yes, I think something like that, yeah.
And then after a while, then automatically your mind intuitively shifts back to silence, not out of resistance, but just that, okay, enough, come back. Then it surface again, enough, come back. This movement.
Yes. And I call it indulge because I let myself think those thoughts longer than I know I should in some sense.
Okay,
so
and so
indulging the thoughts and to let them happen. Yeah.
got it. and we probably hear them clearly and understand what the thoughts are speaking
Yes.
more on a deeper level.
Yes.
To gain the clarity into that voice, for example, what the voice is trying to say, what it's trying to express, and kind of passing the mic to it.
Yes. But not that those thoughts become clearer, they just become louder. So it's
Okay, got it. So there's no resistance or anything. It just happens, comes and goes.
yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, good. Very good. Okay. So next.
So it was I found myself actually starting to meditate after the session and during the time that you guys were sharing. And I was listening at the same time, but it was such a range of reactions, responses to the meditation earlier. And it was partly also because I was sort of looking for insight from the session earlier. And when I first came out of the session, there was nothing in mind. And so that actually triggered me to sit and well, go into meditation again. And actually, the meditation is going well. And I sort of move in and out. And then at one point, I think I can feel like my heart pumping, but it's a little bit okay. So I heard some parts of the session earlier. I think what happened today was that I didn't have an expectation of what we'll be doing today. I mean, usually we don't know what goes on during the Wednesday sessions anyway, but I didn't have any particular expectation. And I was sort of listening but not concentrating on the talk in the beginning, although I heard some bits which now I'm sort of recalling. So I think the narrative today is that in the beginning we talked about trying to the desires for enlightenment or for meditation as a stumbling block in itself. And then when the session actually began, I think I heard almost nothing of the session. So I sat down, the meditation began. I think DK began guiding, but I think I heard it, but actually I can't remember what it was. And then when I actually was conscious and hearing something, actually DK wasn't talking at that time. Then I just went back in to whatever it was. So then when I came out again, it was because I sort of felt like there was smoke around me, and then I kind of moved a little bit, and then it continued again. And next time I heard something was about let go of letting go. The next time I heard something was the chanting. So I think what happened in summary during the session was that because there wasn't anything I was actually doing, I think it gave me a clue as to how what it means to not try to meditate. That just just doing nothing. It's also possible, and and I found myself kind of wavering around slightly different states of mind, and I kind of have a better sense of what it means. But didn't quite hit it yet, but I kind of circled the area and I kind of know what it feels like. And it was actually surprisingly, I think the insight is that it's actually not difficult to get into the state. Because actually during the session, I was also a little bit aching and my legs were actually going numb. But then when I kind of put my thought to that, and then, but even so, even when I kind of feeling it, I can still maintain whatever state that I was in. And it was surprisingly easy to get back in again because I was kind of going in and out. So I think at the end of it, that was my conclusion that the session kind of gave me a clue, although and I think the clue is actually something along the lines of doing nothing and not expecting something, which I suppose is what the non-striving means. So that's where I am. In the middle, I had a thought also that this session was we're actually doing nothing, and it's the same thing as last week's session led by Alwyn, where we are actually doing nothing. Just that I think having done the nothing the first time, this second time I was like really not doing anything, and I think it went better this time around. So I think I'm still reserving the state now. Yeah, it's basically a state where there isn't very much to react to, and you kind of feel nothing. Which now that I talk about it, I remember that I had something like this before, but it's not. I think the last time was a bit deeper, but this one is interesting because it is easier to get into. So I think this session is to tell me that actually it's not hard to meditate. Just doing all this, I fell out of meditation already.
Today, a lot of what we're sharing. I know Sharanya's sharing is coming next, but I'm just replying to everyone one by one. Shock shared it very beautifully right from the start. That is about the how to. right? And the what is open-ended. You realize it yourself. Enlightenment, the Dharma practice, is one of self-realization. That's why in the Dajjhaga when you chant to the Dharma part towards the end, it says Pachang Tapa Viti Tabo Vinyuhi. It means the Dharma is to be realized by the wise themselves. Okay, so Maybelline, actually what you are practicing is what the Zen calls, what the Zen does in Zazen. They don't go into koans, it's called silent illumination. You just sit there, and then be in silence and stillness, and whatever appears, it will just be illuminated on its own. And there's not much you need to do, because the state of mind in meditation, the loving kindness, the compassion, the non-striving, the blah blah blah, everything is already there. It's one wholeness of it and then you go into there and sit, because that's what differs meditation from daydreaming, sitting down there and just daydreaming, right? So what Maybelline did was silent illumination. That is one of the methods. But everything is there, you go and sit. Just like in tantra. You visualize holding this vajra here, one bell there, one bow and arrow there. The ball that is wrapped around your waist, and then the tiger skin on you, and the fire raging behind you, right? That's what we do in tantra. All these qualities coming together as whole, embodied as an archetype. So there's no difference in fact in tantra or in shikantaza, where you just sit for silent illumination. Is this, you accumulate all these tools, or not tools, this focus, this energy, so you just sit, that silent illumination. Very good. What this meditation was telling you is to not try. Yeah, it's not trying to tell you that meditation is easy. It is not trying to tell you anything. Yeah, that you've already got it, then why you went to it? Go and intellectualize again. Go and figure it out again. Try to put words into it. We already felt what non-doing is, which is just a pure state of being, a meditation that is just very naturally happening. But then the mind can creep in and I need to identify. I need to make sense out of it into words. Something like that. But what would happen if you just let go of the need to identify, the need to summarize? What happens? Yeah, very good. 3 seconds before, 4 seconds before, 5 seconds before, backtrack, 6 seconds before. The mind stopped, right, for a bit, right? Okay, just remember that. Very good. Huh? And don't try to recreate that again. Huh? So that's it. Okay, Sean, yeah? Anyway, that's koan, Ken. Yeah. Koans are things that we ask to make the mind stop. The mind to go before thinking. Or what happens before thinking, before the mind starts to think. But then if you go and try to think what is the mind like before thinking, cannot. But when you have the experience, then just dwell in the experience. And that's how sometimes we end up just sitting for a very long time, because it becomes timeless. Right? Makes sense. Okay, Sharanya.
Hello. Oh my gosh. Where to begin? After listening to everyone's amazing sharings, I just feel so inadequate. But I think it's timely that it comes after Ken's, because mine is a step down from Ken. Because at least Ken tried to make sense out of nothing happening. Well, I did not have any questions. I just let the nothing happen. But how I feel now is I don't feel as happy or like blissful as I usually would after what I coin as a good meditation. I feel quite like the same as how I felt when I sat down. So I didn't have that many thoughts during the meditation. There were certain distractions, but then I pushed them to the side because I was listening to your voice. And for me, that helped me stay focused on the process of meditation, even though I wasn't quite sure how I was processing it, because I wasn't asking any questions. I wasn't feeling any sensations. I was just sitting there and kind of letting the words rain, kind of seeing the distractions in a distance, but not feeling anything in between. So it felt like nothing was happening during the meditation for me. And then I come out of it, I open my eyes and I'm like, oh, I feel exactly the same. So I haven't felt this way in a few weeks, I think, right? So am I mad about it? No, I'm not mad. Just a little bit disappointed that it didn't give me that high, when you sit down and meditate, sometimes you have this expectation that you're going to come out feeling better, you're going to feel lighter and all that. But it didn't happen for me today, right now. So then I'm thinking maybe that just means I have to sit for longer, because that seems like the only logical thing to do. Like, if this time is not enough, then logically I need more time to do it. Yeah. Suddenly I feel very awake. I haven't felt this way in a long time. So this is my sharing. Thank you.
Sonia, do you feel annoyed or upset during the meditation process?
Lots of emotions, but fleeting. I didn't hold on to any particular emotion because I was focusing on listening to your voice, and that kept me being stuck in any state. So I was kind of flowing along with your voice. And so during them, it wasn't difficult to be tuned in with your voice, because I'm very used to do that. I'm very used to listening to your guidance and going there. So if nothing else is happening for me, I will just listen to your guidance. So this was one of those moments.
And you didn't get bored today?
Good question.
Did you?
I think a little bit, but then something else would come in. Or you would ask, you would say something, and then it would click in my mind. And then I would inquire a little bit, but then I'll let that go again. Yeah.
And do you notice that you actually didn't fidget that much today?
Yeah.
So what changed?
What changed?
Usually you will fidget if it's not a high meditation, or just come out feeling more. No, sometimes you come out, you don't feel the same. You either feel better or you like, How come you didn't come out feeling, there's no high, but you didn't come out feeling, So what happened? Or what did not happen?
Interesting question. I think for me, at some level, at some deep level, I know that meditation is good for me and it's nourishing my spirit. So I don't feel opposed to that process. I don't feel any negative emotions to that process. So even though I didn't feel a connection to the experience of meditating, I know at some level that it was sitting down and doing this was good for me. And it's just telling me that today, for example, I need a little bit more time to get into a space of real relaxation and insight, because I don't seem to have that much insight from this.
So let me know if this makes sense. Sometimes in life we have dreams and aspirations, we have an intention, because the intention is motivated by the perceived goal and the outcome. And that's what makes life interesting. And we can be fixated on the intention and the goal of why we do certain things, and that's what makes us happy, that's what makes us upset. And most of the time it's because we forgot what's in the middle, about that process of enjoyment, because we have casted the net too far out to just the expectation of the outcome. But we forgot that going out to sea is a fun thing. That we can just trust in that process and be happy about it, and it doesn't matter which direction the boat goes. Oh my God. Do you hang? Did she hang? Did she hang? Okay.
Focused on the goal, but not really caring about the steps I've been taking towards it.
Wait, can you repeat? Because I think you hanged. Right when I started sharing, yeah. So sometimes, the idea of talking about the outcome, it doesn't matter, right? Like what you just wanted to talk about. Because you just hang. Then when the moment that you unhung, I'm serious, you hang, you ask the rest. She hung, right? Right? Did she? Can you all nod your head or shake your head? Yeah, you hang. And then when you unhang, you were just talking about the process all of a sudden. Okay, can you repeat? Whatever you can you yeah.
I can't remember. I cannot remember. What was I saying? No, I'm sorry, I can't remember.
You were talking about taking the steps.
I said for the last week I have been so focused on just the end goal for certain things that I have not been appreciating the steps I've been taking towards it, and not feeling any connection towards the process. That's how I've been in my daily life. And that obviously was exactly how I was during the meditation, where I was like not connected with the process, and I was just fixated on, okay, bliss after meditation, let's go. And then, it didn't happen that way. So.
But then there's no disappointment either.
No, there isn't disappointment.
Because you have begun to just weave into the process.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. The outcome doesn't matter.
For meditation.
In everything in life, right?
I'm working on that.
So that is your insight for the day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody, for staying and having this Dharma discussion. So this is what happens during the one-on-ones. You can hook me up for $390 per hour, blah, blah. No, or should I just jump into that? I'm just kidding. Just figured to lighten things up a bit. So. Okay. In meditations, everyone is so nice to stay tuned now, 10:20. And of course, you, whoever you are, who's watching the recording right now, when you're meditating, you're actually absorbing qi from the universe, the primordial qi, primordial prana, without knowing. Just by meditating, you're already replenishing your being, your subtle body, with heavenly universal energy coming through, as long as your mindfulness is there. So there's a lot of things that you're already receiving without you knowing. Over the part of the meditation, there was a part where I chanted. During that part, I mentioned about enlightened presence, enlightened beings. If you are flatline on that state, I didn't say flatline, but the clear light, that's where there's no duality at all. And thus the Sambhogakaya, the Manakaya, Dhammakaya, it doesn't matter, which is the three Buddhas, bodies of the Buddha, you don't have to bother about that. Right? It's just is as it is. It is just there. You don't have to search for the Buddha because the Buddha can't be found. You don't have to search for your mind. You don't have to search for your true self because it can't be found. You don't have to search what it's not doing because it can't be found. It just is as it is. In the esoteric practice, in a sense, that is where we tap into. To realize that, oh, the Buddha was actually here. Oh, the Bodhisattva is actually there. It just is as it is. And that's that you are actually being guided. Everyone has a Dharma protector. Or not the word, I won't use the Dharma protector, I'm sorry. Everyone has a guide, or have guides. Or what do you call it? Guardian angels, guardian deities. They are watching over you as you practice. Especially when you are a practitioner. They will guide you through your life as well. But it's not to say that, no, we need to rely on guides, because we are broken or inferior. No, because when you reach that stage, it's like, oh, it's all actually the same. Just that they stay there not permanently, they know how to shift into that. They just be there non-stop. And they can be engaged in the world at the same time. But we can't, because we are not there yet. But the good thing is that we are already there. You have touched that. You have achieved a glimpse of it. And that's just to tell you that these things do happen. So when you're meditating, a lot is coming from that plane that is coming in. And wisdom or insight into how you deal with certain things in life, spiritual or worldly, it comes from that as well. And when you gain familiarity with those states, and now that I've identified, I've explained to you, revealed to you who are there, who's there in those realms, right? It is also where we tap into frequencies, we tap into different stuff. It could be divination, it could be anything. That's where we access all the knowledge up there. That's how we people have a lot of names for it. What this record, that record, the Akashi here and there. A lot. So yeah, there's it's not just the Akashi itself, it's a lot of knowledge on there. That is you're not supposed to attain it because you're already that. Your original nature is already that. So keep that in mind. This is the key. Your original nature is already that. And there's a part of you that is always dwelling there. So you just need to remember that very clearly. Because one day you might just know how to use it. Not even day. One day you will just remember these words somewhere in your meditation or when you're helping someone, be it spiritually or worldly way. All of a sudden you just be reminded of this. Then boom, things will come. Or you might not be reminded of this, but you have vibrated back into that realm, and things will just come into you again. And you just come out. This is what we say, that when you cultivate and you attain certain supernormal psychic powers until you do not even know. And if you all have been following, this whole year, coming on almost every Wednesday sessions, there's really something there already. Just that there's no point if I tell you now. What are you going to do about it, right? But I've mentioned some. So today, like Shock said, it's about the how, the what. Just leave it as it is. One day it will just happen. And in terms of the psychic matters, that's what happens to me. Sometimes I go and help someone, I don't even know how to do this or that. Then all of a sudden, I just knew how to do. Is it the Rishi guiding me? Is it Guan guiding me? Or is it my own cultivation that I'm unaware that I have already developed it? But what does it matter? Just do it, complete the job. And after that, think about it. Come and ask me, ask someone. Then you say, okay, that's it. You have achieved. So this is the attainment of non-attainment. Partly is that you achieve, but you don't know. And it's don't need to know, also good. But I feel that I should just tell you all this. So if you all were beginners and I told you all that, how crazy that will go. Maybe some of you just end up, light, come. I go and find my guides, Okay. So good practice, everyone. Thank you for staying all the way till now. Remember to practice on your own way. Moving forward, some of our Dharma sharing should be in this way, to be reflective, for all of us to learn from one another's experience. I believe, through all these dialogues that we are having today, I believe there's some takeaways from you for all of you as well, right? To relate and to resonate with. Okay, very good. Thank you, lovely Sangha. Okay, good night.